Hello everybody, I hope you are well today. We're gonna be talking all about how you actually transition into wearing a hair system. Now I got this video idea actually from the Reddit that we have over on, Reddit. It's called Our Hair System, so make sure you join if you are looking for a place to get a little bit more knowledge and community around hair systems. Now this person asked, is 7 to 10 days of bio hair length enough for people to start? Now this guy goes on to say that he's 29, he's been shaving his head for every 2 days for 10 years, long time Norwood 7. I gotta show what Norwood 7 is for the folks that don't know what it is. So this chart right here showcases the different stages that people go through in hair loss. We have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. So when this gentleman says that he is Norwood 7, he's dealing with a significant amount of hair loss, like a massive amount of hair loss. So his options are pretty limited as far as what he can do to transition with a hair system. We'll talk about that, and then I'll talk about ways that you can actually transition into a hair system depending on where you are in your hair loss journey. Now, one of the viewers who also commented on this said, I have a bald fade with mine, but it's still number 2 or 3 at the point where it meets. So this viewer is talking about a cut 2 or 3, a hair length 2 or 3 up here, down to a bald fade, down a little bit lower, which is an effective way to blend it in if you don't have a lot of hair on your sides. But today, let's just talk about what are the different ways that you can transition into wearing a hair system depending on where you are. So I'm gonna go over a couple of different methods, and you're going to have to decide if this is effective for you in your stage of hair loss and if you can combine and match some of these strategies. So the first one here is the ball cap method that I call, and what this basically means is that for the next 2 to 3 weeks, what you're gonna do is any place that you're consistently going to, so work, the gym, something like that, where people are seeing you regularly, that you're actually worried about people noticing that you look a little bit different, you're gonna wear a cap on. You're gonna wear a hat of some type. Chalk it up to fashion, chalk it up to it being cold, chalk it up to a bunch of different things. Just find an excuse to wear a hat for the next 2 or 3 weeks when you're in places and spaces that you're typically in and people recognize you. This right here is a really effective way to still be in contact with individuals, to not like isolate yourself, but still have a little bit of a barrier. And the reason that we do this is because it actually creates a little bit of like forgetfulness on the behalf of the other person. They can remember exactly what you look like without that hat. It's a little bit of a buffer from, like, if you walk in today, you look one way. If you walk in tomorrow, you look completely different. If you give that 2 to 3 weeks, it's a very common thing that people will be like, oh man, like your hair's grown out, or oh man, you got a haircut, like, oh yeah, it just look a little different. It's something that is very, very common. Even if you see someone after a couple days and they cut their hair, or they shave their beards or something like that, it's easy for us to forget exactly what they looked like before, but we just know something is a little bit different. Now, method number 2 is actually to stay away from people. This is not possible for everybody, depending on your job, your life situation, all this kind of stuff. But you can take a vacation, you can stay at home, you can pretend to be sick, you can do a whole bunch of different things to create a little bit of a buffer from your normal schedule that you usually have. So in this one, people are generally thinking about, of course, friends, family, or potentially people that they work with mostly. So with this, it's that you actually choose to isolate yourself from those people. Once again, same thing as with that ball cap method. You're creating space for people to kind of forget exactly what you look like. They'll have an idea, but they don't know exactly what your hair looked like the last time they saw you. Remember, people for the most part are self-absorbed. Think about what you thought about today, and you'll find out that 95% of it is thinking about yourself, what's going on in your life, how you feel, what you look like, what you're eating, all this kind of junk, right? So it's easy for people to forget when they don't see you for a little bit of time. Now, the next couple methods right here involve actually using your own hair to transition. So the first step is actually just to grow your hair out. Now, this is one that, depending on your level of hair loss, is achievable or not so achievable, depending, on the hair loss, right? For some, they're Norwood 7, like that gentleman in the post to begin with. Probably not too successful if they grow their hair out. They're not gonna have much on the top of their head, and then transitioning to a hair system might be a little bit more obvious. But for someone that has a significant amount of hair, they just have some thinning in a certain region, or there's some diffuseness there, this is a strategy. Now, here's the next strategy for you. It's an augmentation of that last one, and that's grow your hair out and use some hair fibers. I've made videos, some recently, talking about hair fibers, how they're not effective, how it's something that you have to be constantly worried about. It's not a good long-time solution. I've recently made a video talking about hair fibers, how I don't think that they're really a great solution, how you're always worried about them. It's not something that you can go and live your life. It's something that's gonna stop you. However, it can be a good short-term solution. If you're talking about a couple weeks or a month of actually making your hair look a little bit more dense because you have hair fibers, this is a really good strategy. You can also grow your hair out during this right here, which will help in the long run transitioning to a hair system. Now, here's your next strategy. If you do have the ability to grow your hair out, what you're gonna do is you're going to grow it out a significant amount, and you're actually gonna transition into a short system. The idea here is to create a lot of contrast between what you looked like before and what you look like after. And with long hair, it's something that people see, right? Like if people have longer hair and they cut it shorter, they look massively different. Massively different. The volume looks different. The texture of the hair looks different. So many things look different that it's natural for our eyes to go like, oh, I guess they just cut their hair and it looks a little fuller. That's a very common thing. You'll see like women that have longer hair, when they cut it shorter, sometimes it looks way, way thicker, right? This is just a common thing that happens. Now, your next strategy is actually to grow your hair out and dye your hair darker. It can actually be your natural color, but what I mean by dye your hair darker is that if you are experiencing hair loss, one of the key characteristics of that is the fact you will have baby hairs or hair miniaturization going on in your areas of recession or hair loss. So what can happen here is, one, the hair follicles are actually miniaturizing, makes the hair look smaller. You're actually losing hair. And also, number three, the hair is getting blonder. This is a very, very common thing, which can make it actually look like there's really no hair there. So one way to transition, right, is actually grow your hair out, dye your hair to your natural color to make sure that you have a little bit more coverage, and that is something that can help a lot. Now, you can augment this by combining it with other things, right? Like using hair fibers. So grow your hair out, dye it to your natural color, use some hair fibers, and then transition to a short hair system like we talked about. So you can kind of reconfigure all of these different solutions or do them all, and it will help a lot. Now, here is my last one, and this is actually my personal favorite. It's the one that kind of like liberates people the most, and it helps reduce any feelings of shame or that they're hiding or any of that kind of stuff. And that one is this right here. It's the scariest one, but it's actually to own it. If you can walk up to people and if they say, hey, like you look different, and that's most of the time the reaction that you're gonna get. It's not, oh, you got a wig. It's gonna be like, oh, you like look different. Did you shave your head, or did you cut your hair, or did you grow it out, or something like that? Most of the time people won't know exactly what it is. But if you just own it and you say, hey, yeah, I actually I got a lot of hair loss, so I did this thing, I got a hair system, it's actually like natural human hair, it's safe, it's clean, all that kind of stuff, makes me feel good. Just say it like that. Most of the time people are going to respect you. Of course, you're going to get the occasional dick at your office or at the gym or something like that that thinks less of you because of that, but guess what? They're a complete prick anyways. It doesn't really matter. Don't care what people like that think. Don't care so much if a woman thinks that it's a silly thing and now they don't want to hang out with you or they're going to make fun of you. Don't care if a guy makes fun of you for it. It's not your problem. That's their problem for judging other people. If you feel better with a hair system, that's all that matters. It's all that matters. Focus on yourself, focus on feeling better. Guess what? You can lose that friend and you can gain 20 more, because now you look and you feel better. So here's some of the ways that you can transition into wearing a hair system. I hope that you find this effective. Let me know in the comments down below which one you actually went with if you're wearing a hair system, or which one you are going to be doing when you transition to a hair system. For me personally, I actually kind of went with a combination of owning it. One, I'm on the internet talking about it, and I have since I first got a hair system, and I talk about it with a lot of the people in my life. They know about this stuff. A combination of that, I actually use this like the social distancing thing that we had, and I used that as a way to transition. Like, people didn't see me for 2 weeks, so I had a combination of a bunch of different things, and you can do that as well. But if you can grow out your hair, if you can use hair fibers, all that kind of stuff, more power to you. Go ahead and do that. Let me know what you guys think of the video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.